Every single Thursday, we are so lucky to be joined by the head coach of LSU Baseball, Coach Jay Johnson. And look, man, it was a rough weekend in Knoxville last weekend. Some things left at the table, if you will. And now, though, the second half of the season is here. A trip to Mizzou looms. And I want to ask you about something that you were discussing, Coach, earlier in the week, which is, like right now, this is about asking the question, okay, what do these players need? How do I help them? You talk about how it's your only focus right now. You've been having a lot of one-on-one meetings lately with guys. How do you feel this process has gone thus far?
Yeah, good to be on with you guys. I think just kind of assessing, having fired a lot of bullets, that haven't worked relative to SEC play. And again, it's kind of a odd dynamic when you're 20-3 outside of the conference and sitting where we're at inside the conference. Really just trying to help them, and at the end of the day, what I kind of came to is I need to make sure I understand where every player is at, mentally, and I might have my way of doing things. We might have our way of doing things, but it has to be right for this team and the current situation. And just trying to peel it back and, kind of the themes that I've came up with is it's really important for myself and the rest of the coaching staff to be positive, as hard as that is to do, given the current situation, communicate, which I think is a strength of mine and our staff at even at a higher level, and just be ultra consistent, and, they don't feel good about where they're at, and a lot of them about how they've played. But what we can do is focus on what's in front of us, the back half of the league schedule, 3 more non-conference games, and see what we can do, with the rest of this time together to make it productive. And if you look up at the end and, we've created another opportunity for us after the regular season is over, then take advantage of that and just, really focus on what's ahead and try to help them stay in the right mindset.
Well, and Coach, it is one of the most, and maybe the answer is as simple as just kind of how the quality of the opponent to start the season. But I mean, you mentioned being 20-3 out of conference, but it kind of goes beyond that. Where if you just look at this team statistically as well, it's a lot of middle of the pack. I guess what I'm getting is there is some disconnect between the quality of this team and the SEC record. Is it? In kind of doing your research, is it a bit of like a stage thing? Like, what do you kind of point at to try to explain how that disparities kind of come about?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think, again, tough schedule. Yeah. But moving forward, more importantly, is when you play tougher opponents and you have opportunities. And I'm talking, this is on both sides of the ball, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like when you have a chance to get off the field with no damage or little damage, we have to do that. And I mean, just taking last Sunday's game, for example, like we got to 2 outs and 2 strikes and had a chance to get off the field and then gave up a 3-run homer and then immediately came back and hit a 2-run homer. Well, if you don't give up a 3-run homer and all stays the same, now you're ahead versus you're still chasing 2 runs. So just what I would call those key moments, inflection points in the game, just being better, our pitchers getting us off the field and, a hitter being able to slow down and take a quality at bat. And that one, again, is really tough for me because that is a hallmark of our teams and offenses is cashing in when you get opportunities. And we haven't done that. And so we're going to keep working on it and tap into, okay, what do we do well? We have some power. So when we get a mistake pitch, we have to drive it. And we have to try to get more guys to third base with less than 2 outs so we don't necessarily need a hit. Like, again, it's a Tuesday game, but, your best player came up twice, the man on third, less 2 outs, cashed in both runs. Yep. We won the game by 3. So looking at all those things, but I think the crux of it is trying to get on the same wavelength of the players. And right now they really need our help, to stay positive and, let them play as free and easy as they can. And at least at the end of it, they'll know that they were treated well and we can look back at the results and then make our decisions what we're doing from there.
Coach, when you joined us last week, you mentioned there was going to be probably some guys and maybe some different spots and some bigger spots than they've been in their career in that series against Tennessee. And a guy that to me looked like he went out there and competed at a high level was Aiden Moffitt. Like, so of the guys that were kind of new in those positions, how did you think they handled being on the road in the SEC?
I think they did great, and I'm glad you mentioned Aiden. I think he's one of the most talented players on our team. I've been really impressed, pleased with his ascent, if you will, over the last 6 weeks. He's kind of continuing to jump over hurdles that he needs to be where he wants to go. And I think he's one of the more talented pitchers in our program. They're starting to pitch like a good pitcher, and we're going to continue to go to him. And, he did get us off the field on Friday. He had a great inning on Sunday. Christian Moore, who I believe is one of the better players in the league, hit a home run over a very short fence in left field. And we navigated that lineup, honestly, pretty good for, about 2 3/4 of the games last weekend. And I think Aiden was a big part of that. I was glad we were able to get him a blow and not use him on Tuesday. And he'll be out there again this weekend.
Well, and Coach, we talked about really, one of the key things from a fan perspective that I'm watching right now is like, okay, who's going to fight, right? Like who gives a damn? Who's still going to be showing up, and who can you start to get excited about, not just in the immediate future, but more long-term future? And maybe nobody is representing that better right now than Ashton Larson. How nice has it been to see this young man kind of through this adversity find a way to have so much success here?
Yeah, I mean, as a younger player, he has one of the better mental games on our team. Baseball is his deal, like really his deal, like eats, sleeps, drinks it. He has the ability to slow the game down, stay in control of himself, been incredibly coachable, and like I said, mostly just in control of himself. What I've learned, this year, and, I don't know that it was even really any different last year at times. You just had guys that had more experience under their belt, so maybe they'd been through some of those failures and learned how to, have that self-control. One of the things I talk about is, the best weapon you have in your life on and off the field is self-control. The worst thing you can give away is probably self-control. Yeah. He's just a guy that's well beyond his years in that regard, and definitely going to be a staple, in this deal for the rest of this year, and then obviously moving forward the next couple.
Coach, when you're playing a freshman like that, and I know it's different in every sport, and T-Bob and I have talked about that in football, like you can kind of tell like early on when that player gets to campus if he's going to have the demeanor to be able to handle that. Like in recruiting, is that something you can see? I mean, these are freshman players, these are young players, and it doesn't look too big. Like Larson, you're in one of the toughest environments in the SEC, and you're hitting and you're making plays in the field. Is that something you can identify in recruiting, or do you have to wait till they get to campus to kind of find that out?
That's a really good question. I think it's something we obviously want to continue to look at more and more. I think it's there's also just like I don't know what to call it, like a talent code or talent level that you have to have to even get in the door at a place like this to have any chance of matching up with the better teams in the league. And, I say that knowing exactly where I'm at and that we can get some of the most talented players. The separator becomes if you're equal in talent, that mental game, that maturity, that self-control shows up at the field on a consistent basis. And so when you get a guy like Paul Skeens, it completely stands out. That deal was, the talent was absurd, but the execution was partly because of the human being, you know what I mean? And having that strong mental game. And so I think there's some young players in the program that are exhibiting that. And Ashton would be one of those guys. And I think that's a real positive for the back end of this year and then moving forward.
Coach, last one for me here. I kind of asked the question earlier because, I'm a baseball enjoyer, right? Not an expert. When it comes to things like timely hitting or hitting with runners in scoring position, is that something that is correctable, or is it kind of like, no, you just stick to your process and eventually the math dictates that it should kind of fix itself?
No, I don't think it definitely fixes itself. If it did, we would be in a much better position than we are, right now. I think it's about continuing to work, continuing to learn. The most glaring one was obviously, on Saturday, we get first two guys on. Steven Milan lays down a great drag bunt with 2 strikes, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
I felt like that was our best chance of still moving the runners, staying out of double play. He puts down a great bunt. Billy Amick throws it away. We get a run in, then we get to second and third. I mean, we've had such a hard time with that. Like, I squeezed with no outs on the first pitch, and that's something you don't do. Like, it's against the book, but it's me trying to make it almost easier on the player to get the job done. Yeah. We end up striking out, and then Jared Jones, who's really improved. He's one real bright spot, for me. But it's Drew Beam, who's one of very few guys in this league that started for 3 years. High level pitchability. He's able to throw some strikes without really giving a pitch that was easy to move the ball on, and strikes him out. And then now you're asking for a hit, and they were able to get Tommy out too. So I think it's just staying with it, slowing down. Work on it every day. Like, we have what we call a red zone scrimmage, and getting guys in, and trying to put them in the best position to be successful to do that. I thought it was, again, midweek game, not the same thing. Just thought it was great. Your best player comes up and flips a 2-strike slider to right field just to get the run in, and then a first pitch slider to get the run in. And the great hitters can do that. They'll drive the ball and pick up RBIs that way, but the best hitters get 1 RBI when there's 1 RBI to get.
Yeah. Coach Jay Johnson, LSU head baseball coach, cannot thank you enough. Best of luck going into Mizzou this weekend. Can't wait for another weekend of Tiger baseball. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.